This is Robin Miller for Phosphorus. We're talking with Jeremy Sands, whose main reason for fame is that he runs SouthEast LinuxFest. So when is that this year, Jeremy?
It is June 10th through the 12th in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Charlotte, North Carolina. So you have to bring your own bathroom signs. Ha, ha, ha.
Oh yes, we've gotten our fill of that. I don't even know honestly if HB2 will still be there by the time our event happens. They've had so much blowback.
I don't know, when the NASCAR's against it, Woo! All right. Anyway, so you've been doing that how long now?
Oh goodness, since probably 08, 09 or so. So getting close to 10 years now.
Wow. So it's moving right along. And how many volunteers do you get turning out to help you?
Oh, we probably get about 8 to 10 serious volunteers who are there throughout, and then probably about another dozen people who chip in when they can.
So that's all it takes.
Oh yeah, it's just like your open source projects you love. It's a really small core group of people that do most of the heavy lifting, like it is in most open source projects.
How about sponsors? You doing good with sponsors?
Yeah, we're doing pretty good. And what delights me is how many of our sponsors are actually from the Southeast, and not just Red Hat. People like Omnibond, who's in Pendleton, South Carolina, and all kinds of companies throughout the Southeast.
So you're saying it's a true regional conference?
Yes, indeed.
Love it. How many people show up?
About 1,000.
Okay, because I've been there.
Yes, you keynoted.
As a matter of fact, yes, I did, and they didn't run away screaming. So, folks, if you're thinking about speaking at LinuxFest Southeast, it's an easy and forgiving audience. Yeah,
we're a very community-oriented conference. We have several people who speak at our event who have only ever spoken to their lug before. So I like to use the event as a farm league for regional speakers and bring them up and let them have their first shot in front of a crowd that isn't local.
Okay, and it doesn't hurt anything. And, besides, what kind of topics get covered?
Oh dear, it's all over the place. Ever since we had B-Sides Charlotte at our event, we've had a lot more security talks submitted and done. So InfoSec's getting really big. DevOps is getting really big. Cloud seems to be fading away, but it's a very similar in terms of content. I would say it's very similar to Scale. Very community oriented, sort of the one guy at the company who has to put on many hats. So like super sysadmin kind of content.
Okay, so we're talking basically more professional and home user here.
Definitely oriented more towards the enterprise or the professional or the prosumer equivalent. But there's still definitely content, though, for the newbies out there. We have a talk this year on IRC for the newbies, which I think will be great for new people looking for help, because if you want to get help instantly, that's where you should go.
And interestingly enough, I think awareness of IRC has been dropping. Thank you for this. I need to write an article for newbies about IRC. So, thinking of which, how did you get started with Linux?
So, I was in high school, and my parents asked me what I wanted for Christmas. And of course, I said, how about one of those awesome new AMD 1 gigahertz systems?
Whoa.
Oh, yeah. And it was a compact Presario 7000Z with Windows Millennium on it.
Whoa.
Yeah, it took me maybe 2 or 3 months to get so irate and fed up that I was like, there has to be something, anything better I can put on here. And I tried Mandrake 7.1 at the time. This was mid-kernel 2.4, roughly.
Don't look at me. I came in at Mandrake. I was quoted on Mandrake on the box of Mandrake 5, I think. And your first computer, to me, sounds blazing. I'm old. I'm old. I had the little cup thing on the phone modem.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So that wasn't my first. My first computer was probably a DOS 386 box, but it was the first computer that was mine.
Hey, your own crappy Toyota is better than Dad's Cadillac.
Absolutely, 10 out of 10 times. So Mandrake actually worked out really well for me. I eventually got to a point where I realized I haven't remembered the last time I booted into Windows. And so I just went whole hog with Mandrake. I got further into Linux. Myth TV, I really got into Myth TV. And I didn't like having to set up Myth TV every 6, 12, 18 months every time there was a new Mandrake release. So at that point, I had a weekend where I went down the rabbit hole trying distro after distro until I found one I liked. And I ended up on all things of Gen 2. And I've been on Gen 2 ever since. And I use Gen 2 for my servers for my college sports websites. And eventually, my college sports websites, through advertising through Google, sent me a bigger paycheck than my employer did. And at that point, I cashed out, and I'm just doing my thing now. All Linux powered, all open source powered.
And I was looking at that. You make a living running a bulletin board for college sports fans.
Down here in the South, college football is religion.
You northern people, I live in Florida, so I can say that.
Yes.
The biggest event here this week has been the Bucks signed a guy who was a high school star in Tampa.
Oh yeah, the NFL. Yep, the NFL draft just happened. Yep.
But you see, when you hire a guy who's a local boy, around here and around there too, it's the thing.
That happens more often than you think in Florida, especially Tampa and Miami. They just throw football players on trees out there.
Yes, they do. I live in the town has provided 3 coaches in Bradenton. So, yeah, we've got them all the time, and we haven't had a sex fondling scandal at Bradenton High School for a good 2 years. Yay! How about you guys have them too, right?
Oh yeah.
And none of those people use Linux, I've noticed.
You'd be surprised. There's probably a few, law of averages, but probably not many.
But anyway, so you got into this Linux stuff. You started using it for that, and from what I saw on your LinkedIn profile, you've converted a bunch of client companies too.
Yeah, so my first job was for a small marketing and public affairs firm, and the back end was just a hideous hodgepodge of Windows things that were practically black boxes. And so I started ripping stuff out and replacing it with Linux. So first thing to go was Active Directory, in came Samba and authentication through Samba. After that, out went Exchange, and in came Zimbra. And on and on and on. And it took me probably 3 to 6 months doing it piecemeal like that, but I was the only guy doing it. But we finally got Windows out of the back end of the shop completely.
And how much better did that make your life?
Infinitely better, especially when things were on fire and I wasn't there, because I could do anything I had to do remotely, which I can't really do, at least not easily, with Windows.
And how did that strike your users, the non-IT people in the company?
That's the best part. Most of them never even noticed the difference. Like, all they know is they went home one day and they came back the next, and I looked really tired and everything seemed to be normal.
Well, you might be someday like I have a grandson who, when he went to school, he said, "Grandpa," he said, "what's wrong with computers at school?" I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "They stopped working." Thinking of Mandrake, I had from Florida, put it on just a white box, whatever thing, and sent it up to them in Baltimore.
Nice.
It worked for years, no tech support, just because I didn't want to deal with Windows in the family as a support guy.
Yeah, all of my family members have Linux for all their desktops and laptops. All they're doing is email and browsing anyway, and for my niece and nephews, Minecraft. And you can do all that in Linux, so why bother? And especially with my niece and nephew, like, having Linux keeps them out of so much trouble trying to install sketchy stuff.
Don't go there. Or the other thing you can do, my wife has the Linux variant known as Chrome OS. And she has a Chromebook, and it was $250 from Acer, and she loves it dearly.
Yeah.
Big, too. Big one.
Chrome OS has done way better than I thought it would. There's way more people than we think that just want a browser and email.
That's right. So, and we're not them. So, at the stuff you do, you're still doing other things besides bulletin board, right? Such as?
So I do some consulting on the side, but it's just hodgepodge here and there, and mostly for people who already know me.
Okay.
Yeah, most stuff I literally turned down most of the offers I'm given because like, no, I'd rather talk college football and make money off that. But besides that, I do self. Self is definitely a labor of love. You're not going to make money running a community event where you charge $0 to attend. So self is kind of my way of giving back to the open source community in a non-code form.
Do you need more volunteers? Do you need more sponsors?
We can always use more volunteers and sponsors, even if it's just a volunteer to watch the registration table for an hour or two to give somebody else a coffee break. You know,
people, you heard that, right? And sponsors. Yeah. So, you know, get hold of Jeremy. You know, the little text accompanying this video has his contact information. Also, the URL for his college sports bulletin board, so you too can go talk college football until you are, I don't know, until you are drunk.
Well, that does go well with college football in the South. Let's face it, a lot of thermoses going into stadiums are full of bourbon and not Diet Coke.